Listen to these statistics. They're eye-opening. Roughly 450 million people across the globe currently suffer from some type of mental illness. 1 in 4 will be affected by mental illness at some point in their lifetime. Those numbers come courtesy of the World Health Organization. But as full-frame contributor Sandra Hughes tells us, people suffering from mental illnesses are often reluctant to seek help because of the stigma that surrounds it.
I was homeless and I was living on the street. I would stay in parks and buildings. I would get kicked out of buildings. But I lost my heart when they took away my kids.
29-year-old Gabby Gonzalez has cleaned up a methamphetamine habit that almost cost her everything.
I lost my kids. You know, that was hard for me. I couldn't. At that moment, it was like, how could I have let this happen to me? How could I put my kids through this, you know?
Gonzalez had turned to drugs to help her deal with untreated depression.
I had been diagnosed with clinical depression since I was 15. Never took medication for it because I didn't believe it. Growing up, my family, my parents were always like, well, you're fine. You just have to control it. You have to, whenever you feel sad, you just think happy thoughts and everything's gonna be okay.
According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1 in 4 people, more than 60 million Americans, experience some kind of mental illness every year. Research indicates there's a pre-illness phase to many mental disorders, and it's during that phase organizations targeting youth between the ages of 10 and 25 will try to detect symptoms, possibly heading off a breakdown. That's what happens at Kickstart, a facility in San Diego, California.
Good. What's been going well the last couple of weeks?
I'm kind of shy to say this, but the guy that I like in my class, he said he likes me.
The program is unique in part because therapists include families. Counselors role play as family units as part of their training.
I think just talking to different people about it would be good, like with my peer support.
They treat kids who hear voices or see shadows, and they teach families that having a mental illness doesn't have to define their child.
They could have a full life, have a normal relationship. They might have their ups and downs, but just educating them on what the symptoms is and what they could do to prevent an episode.
The success of early detection is hard to document in data, but the results are tangible.
See how he does, see if we can.
I think the most unique thing is that we focus on the prevention of mental health issues, whereas many different programs and hospitals and treatment settings focus on treating the illness after it's already progressed. In the best case scenario, we'll see a remission of symptoms where the symptoms will go away. Whether or not that's a permanent state is hard to tell.
The Kickstart program would have benefited Gabby Gonzalez, who spent more than a decade battling her emotional demons without therapy or medication.
My depression gets really bad to the point where I want to die, and I tried to kill myself many times.
Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death for adults in the U.S. and the 3rd leading cause of death for youth ages 15 to 24. Still, mental illness is often kept in the shadows.
Do you think that's changing? I mean, do you feel like people are more open now to talking about depression, mental illness, or do you think there's still a pretty big stigma?
Oh yeah, I think so. I myself find myself sometimes not wanting to talk about it.
And how's your job?
But she's talking now.
I'm doing my 4th step right now with Joyce.
After almost a year at Via Avante, a Los Angeles treatment center for women with mental illness and drug addictions, Gonzalez is ready to move into an apartment and start her life over.
Oh man, I see me and my kids together. You know, that was something that there was a time where I didn't think that was going to be possible. It's just great. I have a job, you know, who would have thought? I have a job, you know, that's great.
And a balanced life, living happily with mental illness. In Los Angeles, this is Sandra Hughes for Full Frame.